It was a night just like this. The storm was raging outside. I trusted him, you see, more than anyone. But he took everything, even the memories we made. This house has stood for generations, and it will not fall on my watch. We will face this storm together. When your grandfather and I first met, the world was a very different place. We had so little, but we had each other. They can take our homes, they can take our things, but they can't take who we are. My daughter-in-law, Jessica, told everyone I was losing my mind. She whispered to neighbors that I was forgetting names, leaving stoves on, getting confused about dates. All lies. But those lies helped her steal $300,000 from my late sister's inheritance before I even knew it existed. She thought an old woman like me would just sit there and take it. She thought wrong. This is how I made her regret the day she ever underestimated what a grandmother with nothing left to lose could do. I should have seen it coming the day Jessica started being extra sweet to me, bringing me flowers every Tuesday, offering to help with my grocery shopping, sitting with me for hours asking about family history and old documents. I thought she finally cared. I thought maybe after 5 years of cold shoulders and fake smiles, we were finally becoming family. I was a fool. My sister Margaret had been fighting cancer for 2 years before she passed. We weren't close, hadn't spoken much since Mama died, but blood is blood. I went to her funeral alone because my son David said he was too busy with work. Jessica said she had a migraine. Looking back, I think they were already planning. The lawyer called me 3 weeks after Margaret's service, said my sister had left me her house and savings in Baltimore, $300,000 total. I nearly dropped the phone. Margaret always said she didn't have much, but apparently she'd been saving and investing for decades. Smart woman, my sister. Smarter than me. I was so excited I called David right away. Son, I said, you won't believe what your Aunt Margaret left us. I told him everything. The house, the money, how we could finally fix up my old kitchen and maybe take that trip to see his cousins in Georgia. That's wonderful, Mama, he said, but his voice sounded strange, distant. Listen, these inheritance things can be complicated. Why don't you let Jessica handle the paperwork? She's good with legal stuff. I should have said no. Should have trusted my gut that was screaming warnings. But Jessica had been so kind lately, and I was overwhelmed by lawyers and documents I didn't understand. When she offered to drive me to Baltimore to meet with Margaret's attorney, I said yes. The meeting was short. Jessica did most of the talking, asking about timelines and tax implications and transfer procedures. She took copies of everything, the will, the property deed, account statements, just so we can review everything at home, she said, smiling that perfect smile of hers. I signed where the lawyer pointed, filled out the forms Jessica said were necessary, trusted my family to help me navigate something that felt too big for an old woman to handle alone. 3 months later, I still hadn't seen a penny. Every time I asked David about the inheritance, he got defensive. These things take time, Mama. Jessica's handling it. Don't worry about the details. When I asked Jessica directly, she'd pat my hand and say, "Oh, sweetie, you're getting confused again. We talked about this. The estate is still in probate." But I wasn't confused. I started writing things down, dates, conversations, what people told me, and the more I wrote, the clearer it became that something was very wrong. The first real sign came when I drove past Jessica's house and saw a brand new BMW in the driveway. Bright red, still had the dealer plates. When I asked her about it at Sunday dinner, she laughed and said David got a big promotion. But David worked at the same factory job he'd had for 15 years. I knew what he made. Then I noticed Jessica's clothes. Designer purses, expensive jewelry, shoes that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She'd started getting her nails done every week, going to some fancy spa downtown. When I complimented her new diamond earrings, she touched them and said, "Oh, these old things? I've had them forever. Liars always give too many details." I tried calling Margaret's lawyer myself, but his secretary said the estate had been closed and all assets distributed. When I asked for copies of the final paperwork, she said I'd need to request them through the beneficiary's attorney. "But I am the beneficiary," I said. Long pause. "Ma'am, according to our records, the inheritance was transferred to Jessica Morrison, acting as power of attorney for Dorothy Morrison due to mental incapacity." Mental incapacity. My hands started shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. "There must be some mistake," I whispered. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't discuss this further without proper authorization." I hung up and sat in my kitchen for 2 hours, staring at the wall, trying to understand how my own family had erased me from my sister's last gift. Then I got angry. Not the hot, screaming kind of angry, the cold, calculating kind that comes when you realize you've been played by people you trusted with your life. I called my old friend Patricia, who'd worked as a paralegal for 30 years before retiring. When I told her what happened, she was quiet for a long moment. "Dorothy," she said finally, "they committed elder fraud. This isn't just stealing, it's a federal crime. But I signed papers. Did you read what you were signing?" I closed my eyes. Jessica said they were just transfer forms. Standard procedure. "Honey, I think you signed over power of attorney without knowing it. And if they're claiming mental incapacity, they probably have forged documents or fake medical evaluations to back it up." My heart sank. What can I do? We're going to fight this, but we need a real lawyer, someone who specializes in elder abuse, and we need to move fast. Patricia recommended her nephew Marcus, who ran a practice focused on financial crimes against seniors. I used my savings to pay his retainer, $2,000 I could barely afford. But Margaret's money was rightfully mine, and I'd be damned if I was going out quietly. Marcus was thorough. He requested all the paperwork from Margaret's estate, subpoenaed Jessica's bank records, and hired a private investigator to document their sudden lifestyle changes. What we found made my stomach turn. Jessica had forged a power of attorney document with my signature. She'd submitted a fake mental competency evaluation claiming I had moderate dementia and was unable to manage my affairs. She'd even provided witness statements from David saying I'd been confused and forgetful for months. My own son had helped her steal from me. The bank records showed exactly where Margaret's money had gone. The BMW, the jewelry, a vacation to Hawaii they'd taken without telling me, renovations to their house, credit card payments for shopping sprees. They'd spent almost $40,000 in 3 months, treating my inheritance like their personal lottery winnings. "We have them cold," Marcus said during our 4th meeting. "This is textbook elder fraud with forged documents. The DA will absolutely prosecute this. What happens to them?" "Jessica's looking at federal charges for wire fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. That's potentially 20 years. David could face charges as an accessory, and they'll have to pay everything back with interest and penalties." I thought about David as a little boy, how he used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms, how I worked double shifts to pay for his school clothes, his baseball equipment, his graduation party, how I dreamed of leaving him something when I was gone, not because he deserved it, but because that's what mothers do. "File the charges," I said. The FBI agents came to Jessica and David's house on a Tuesday morning. I wasn't there, but the neighbors told me everything. Jessica screamed when they showed her the handcuffs. David just stood there looking shocked, like he couldn't believe his perfect plan had fallen apart. They were both arrested. Jessica got a federal public defender. David hired a lawyer with money they didn't have, probably borrowing against the house they'd bought with my sister's money. I didn't visit them in jail. I didn't attend their arraignment. When David called me collect from his cell, I hung up. But Tyler, my grandson, came to see me. He was 17, caught in the middle of his parents' crimes, trying to understand how the people who raised him could steal from his grandmother. Grandma, he said, sitting at my kitchen table with tears in his eyes, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what they were doing. I believe you, baby. Mom always said you were getting forgetful. She showed Dad papers from doctors saying you needed help managing money. I thought they were helping you. I took his hands. Those were fake, Tyler. Your mother is very good at lying. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry they did this to you. You don't apologize for other people's sins, even if they're your parents. The trial took 8 months. Jessica tried to claim she was just protecting me from my own confusion. Her lawyer argued that I was an unreliable witness due to my age. They brought in a paid expert who suggested elderly people often misremember financial transactions. But Marcus had done his homework. He presented the forged documents, the timeline of their spending, witness testimony from my doctor confirming I had no signs of dementia. He showed the jury photos of Jessica's shopping sprees, receipts from their luxury vacation, bank statements proving they'd treated my inheritance like their personal ATM. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Jessica got 18 months in federal prison and 5 years probation. David got 6 months and 3 years probation. They were ordered to pay full restitution plus penalties minus $430,000 total. But here's the thing about stealing from old people. You can't unseal time. Margaret's house had to be sold to pay the lawyers. The money they'd already spent was gone. Cars repossessed, jewelry liquidated, their own house foreclosed on. I got back most of what was stolen, but I also got something else. I got the satisfaction of watching people who thought I was weak learn exactly how strong a grandmother can be when you take what's hers. Jessica served her time in a minimum security facility in Virginia. David lost his job when the conviction became public. They divorced while she was inside. Apparently betraying your mother-in-law together isn't great for a marriage. Tyler came to live with me after they lost the house. Smart boy, honor student, nothing like his parents. We used some of Margaret's money to fix up the spare room, get him a computer for school, start a college fund. The rest I put into a trust that neither David nor Jessica can ever touch. These days, Tyler calls me his hero, says I taught him that standing up for yourself isn't mean, it's necessary. That family doesn't get to hurt you just because they're family. I still see David sometimes at the grocery store. He looks older, tired, like a man who learned too late that stealing from your mother costs more than money. He never approaches me, never tries to apologize. Maybe he knows I wouldn't believe it anyway. Jessica moved back to Ohio after her release. I heard she's working at a gas station, living in a studio apartment, still paying off the restitution. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about me when she's counting out change for customers, remembering the old woman she thought was too confused to fight back. People ask me if I regret having my own son arrested, if I feel guilty about breaking up Tyler's family. The answer is simple. They broke up their own family the day they decided to steal from me. I just made sure there were consequences. Margaret left me that inheritance because she wanted to take care of me in my final years. Maybe buy a few nice things, travel a little, leave something for Tyler when I'm gone. Jessica and David saw an old woman and thought, easy target. They learned the hard way that this old woman still had plenty of fight left in her. And Tyler, he learned that blood doesn't excuse betrayal. that integrity matters more than money, and that his grandmother isn't anyone's fool. That's a lesson worth $300,000 any day.